Now, let me introduce the speaker. Zuzanna works as a corporate outreach specialist at Otwarte Klatki. Currently, her main focus is the broiler campaign and working with egg and poultry producers. Thanks to her veterinary background, Zuzanna is also involved in animal welfare as well as veterinary research in the organization. She is going to present us a topic of how to get more vets to work with us and why we are failing at it. Zuzanna, so the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Barbara. Hello, everyone. Could you tell me if you are hearing me properly? Yeah, great. I'll start sharing the screen. Yeah, I cannot share the screen because I'm a participant. So you have to make me a host, I guess.
It is okay now?
Oh, yeah, it is. It's okay? Yeah, great. Just so I can see everyone. Yeah, that's perfect. Okay, so hello everyone. Thanks so much for joining room B today. I have to share with you that I remember attending my first conference last year in Warsaw and thinking to myself that it would be super cool to be a speaker one day. So I'm pretty excited about it. Yeah, you already know that my name is Zuzanna Genderka and I work at Otwarte Klatki. It's probably worth mentioning that Otwarte Klatki is a Polish branch of a much bigger party called Anima International. And I'm going to be talking to you about involvement of veterinarians in our work in the cause in the movement. Yeah, so let's go. A little bit of background about myself. Yeah, I work as a corporate outreach specialist in Poland. I'm based in Poland. And I mostly do outreach in broilers. I'm very much buried in European chicken commitment and extremely important international agreements on essential welfare changes in broiler production. So I contact companies using or selling broiler meat and convince them to change their supply chain in accordance to European chicken commitment. But as some of you may know, Otwarte Klatki are pretty flexible when it comes to titles and what you actually do in the organization. So I also do, together with my colleague, producers outreach. I contact egg and poultry producers and talk to them about changes that they are going to be facing in the next couple of years due to phasing out cage eggs and European chicken commitment. And apart from that, all the veterinary welfare issues that arise, I'm usually the guy or the girl that's being contacted. And I also recently started coordinating a volunteer-based research team. I'm pretty excited about it too. And I coordinate scientific grants. So this is me today, but it all started probably 20 years ago. I was just a very average animal-loving kid, as probably 90% of all of us gathered today, just taking care of stray dogs and small birds that have fallen off their nests or haven't, but I didn't know that. We all make mistakes. And I wanted to have a dog, and I was in love with my dog Plato, Labrador Retriever, for quite a long time. And my favorite anecdote from that time is the fact that I was late for my first ever confession at church. And if you don't really realize how much of a Catholic country Poland is, well, it's pretty Catholic, and its first confession is very much a big deal. So being late for that, due to the fact that I was saving little starling that I was stuck in a pipe with my father was not an explanation that the bishop wanted. But actually, yeah, nothing had changed. It will still be much more important for me today, of course. And the starling was fine. My dad saved it, so yeah, happy end. Okay, so one day you're an 8-year-old kid loving animals, and the next day you're 19, and everyone keeps telling you that it's time to decide what you're going to do for the rest of your life, because that's the perfect age for that, right? And yeah, so I figured out, okay, I do love animals. I would like to know how to be able to help them. And I'm pretty good at chemistry and biology, so why not veterinary medicine? And that's how it all started. As you can see, preparing an IV injection in a pig is a pretty big deal. This is the face I make when something is really hard to do. Yeah, so enough about me for quite a while. And back to the topic. Veterinarians, do we really need them? Do we actually need them in the movement? Of course, I am very much biased. I'm a vet and I work in the movement, but I'll try to support it with, in my opinion, solid arguments. I do like to think that we have thorough knowledge on industrial farming, on farming in general, which might be crucial when you're preparing a campaign or just social media content, leaflets, anything. So it's good to have someone on board. It's good to have on board someone who can consult that. And the second thing, knowledge of industry-specific vocabulary. It's probably the part of the first one, but I really wanted to highlight that because that's something that I use advantage of very often, and I simply love it. I feel like a spy when sometimes I need to call slaughterhouses. It's not a pleasant telephone call, but I have to make them due to working with European Chica Commitment and lots of stunning methods. And I have to call abattoirs and ask about systems that they use in stunning birds. And I simply love calling them and just saying my name and saying that I'm a vet, and then asking all those very specific questions about different systems. And I love the fact that they never expect that they are talking to someone who is actually related to animal rights or animal welfare movement, because they simply don't expect us to have specific knowledge. As you probably all know, they tend to discredit us as people who know what they are doing very often. Yeah, and it's related to the next one. Probably the vast majority of us were sometimes called incompetent ego freaks who don't know what they are talking about. So when you have a vet or a few vets on board, it might be extremely valuable to have them. And I have one example. It was actually, 6 months ago probably, and I attended a discussion at Polish Parliament in Warsaw. It was a discussion about changes being made in the law of animal protection in Poland. And there was my former professor was present in the room, and he was saying things like, yeah, you don't know what you're talking about, you have no knowledge about animals, about veterinary medicine, and so on and so on. And I remember this, standing up and just taking the mic and saying, hello, Dr. I'm your former student. I have a diploma in veterinary medicine. I very much know what I'm talking about. It was pretty empowering and it really helped. And he didn't need a response because, yeah, what could he have said, right? Resilience to drastic materials. Well, we all know how hard it is to watch investigations material but we do need to watch them thoroughly when preparing a campaign. All the details are important. And, you know, when you spend 6 years seeing all that with your own eyes, visiting all the pig, egg, dairy farms and slaughterhouses, you kind of get used to seeing that. It doesn't mean that I don't get emotional seeing that. I don't watch things like that if I don't have to. But I think that there is a big probability that I might get less emotional than other people watching it. And last but not least, well, actually least, I hate it. We should respect all professions, of course, but this is the fact. Veterinarians are still among some of the most respected professions, and we all know that to have a strong organization with strong, effective organization with amazing culture, you need people great at IT and at marketing and creating social media content or communication, human resources, and also maybe vets. But for people from outside, they only see the fact that we work with animals or for animals. So having a vet on board might also be beneficial here. Okay, so yeah, we need them, but what can we actually use them for? Of course, representing the media, because we know what we're talking about. Corporate outreach produces outreach, also pretty obvious. I do that all the time. Contacting officials. I like to think that if a vet contacts another vet in veterinary inspection, that might also give us some advantage. Even if you are on the other side, sometimes you just graduate from the same faculty, same university. So there's always some kind of agreement here. Scientific research is also pretty obvious. We are used to do lots of research throughout the years and just seek for evidence-based papers. Campaign consulting, also related to investigations, materials, leaflets. When you're preparing a campaign, you don't really want to make some kind of tiny mistake in let's say, housing systems. And of course, direct interventions, some of us do that. Yeah, I don't have to explain that having a veterinarian with your team might help make an intervention a success. Okay, so who actually veterinary students or vets are? Who would like to dedicate at least 6 years of their life, first buried in books and then buried in feces, blood, and mud? Well, I'm going to be simplifying that, of course, and you'll find lots of different people at faculties of veterinary medicine, but you'll always find two big groups. First group are people who come from farming families that may have been farming for generations, people who are really familiar with livestock and just working on a farm. And they usually come from rural areas, of course. And they usually also want to, they aspire to working with farm animals after graduation too. And another big group are also very naive people who think that veterinary medicine is for people who love animals. And yeah, they might not be vegetarian or vegan, but they have lots of dogs, cats, and take care of all the stray pets. And of course, I am a proud member of the second group. So if you want to reach out to those people, I would probably pick group number 2. And we have data to support us. There was actually a paper written about the fact that the familiarity with farm animals and with working on a farm, and also the preference to work with farm animals after graduation significantly decreases AAS, so Animal Attitude Score, that measures empathy and compassion towards animals. So when you think about it, the very people who are going to work with farm animals, animals that, when you look at the scale, need the most empathy and compassion, and it is the most needed, they are the people who have least compassion and empathy towards those animals. That's pretty sad. Okay, but we still have this second group, the huge group of people who love animals. So why aren't all of them involved in the movement? Why aren't they working with us? It's also pretty complicated, but there are a few things that we can highlight here. First of all, the curriculum is definitely against us. And we also have some science to support that. There was a study done in Italy in 2016, measuring empathy in veterinary students who just started attending veterinary medicine first year or fifth year. And as you can see, both males and females have a significant decrease in the empathy level towards animals. And of course, it's related to the fact that when you're exposed to seeing all those horrific stuff, you just kind of get used to that, and you have to get used to that in order to not get distressed too much. Yeah, that's my favorite point, actually. This is how I'm going to look like for the next couple of minutes, but it all makes sense, I promise. I believe that we all know that veterinary medicine is connected with industrial farming, and that vets are connected with producers. But I'm not sure if we are all aware of how deeply it goes. And I just have a few simple examples here. So this is my favorite cover ever. As you probably guess, it's a Christmas cover of a very well-known, I mean, in the industry, very well-known journal about fair farming. And the chief editor of that, yeah, and thanks Andrzej Sikorski for sending that cover to me. It made my day a week ago. And the chief editor of this very magazine is actually the professor at Faculty of Veterinary Medicine at my university. And he covers fair animals diseases. And it does not surprise anyone, and it's not illegal or anything. But when you think about it, like, imagine that he was covering internal medicine of feline internal medicine, so for cats, let's say. And in the same time, he would be a chief editor of a magazine covering how to make fur from cats. It's pretty crazy for me. And this is the link that, yeah, you'll all find it here. The second picture, this is from the official website of my university. And this is the meeting of officials from biggest Polish meat producer and the authorities of my university. And this biggest meat producer is now the official partner of my university. And I checked the revenue they had for the recent data I found was from 2018, and the revenue is 1.5 billion euros for 2018. That's my favorite one, definitely. So this is the conference of covering carnivore birds, conference of claw hunters, and it was partnered by and sponsored by biggest Polish poultry producer. That's pretty ironic too. Peer pressure. Yeah, I might get a little bit personal here. I remember I have one very vivid memory about how isolated I felt sometimes during my studies. There was a visit at slaughterhouse, like every week on my fourth year. Fourth year is specifically for farm animals, so lots of visiting, farm visiting, and slaughterhouses visits too. And I remember it was a cattle slaughterhouse, so there were lots of cattle heads cut off in the room, and everyone was laughing and everyone was having a great time. And I remember standing there and just thinking to myself, am I crazy or are all of them crazy? Like, how can they be laughing or just having a great time and discussing whether we should visit Burger King or KFC on our way back? And in my opinion, you have three options here to just not get completely, I don't want to use the word crazy, I don't know, distressed. First of all, you can just switch it off and try to be like them. The second, you can just quit and decide, okay, maybe I'm too empathetic or maybe I'm too, I don't know, weak. Because that's what I thought, that I was weak or I don't know, not psychologically strong enough for that. So you can quit and I don't know, have a career in linguistics or whatever. And the third option, the option I picked actually, is just to take a break. And after my fourth year, I decided to have a year off and to just don't think about all that and travel. And I just had a very honest conversation with myself and decided that I was just not going to graduate if I don't take this break. And it worked for me. But there are many people who just, well, I don't know, go with the flow and just try to maintain their psychological health and decide to, yeah, switch it off or quit. Okay, so lots of obstacles I have presented, but are there any things that we can actually do to overcome all of that? Yeah, first thing I would recommend is to reach out to the students, not to the people who already have their diplomas. Due to all the factors that I've mentioned a couple of minutes ago, veterinary students might be people who still have this raw empathy and they're not influenced by meat industry that much. Yeah, these are the baby vets waiting to be recruited by you. Match the message to the recipient. That's crucial, in my opinion. The usual content that you would use for general public that works great might not be something that I would use when you go for a meeting with veterinary students. You just have in mind that there are people who know their stuff and who are very much evidence-oriented. So just remember to go prepared and be professional. Does it mean that you have to graduate from veterinary medicine in order to go and talk to vet students? Of course not. But don't act like you know something if you obviously don't, because this is a tough crowd and they will definitely know. And it's actually, if you don't know something, just tell it openly. You know, we have a campaign and we need some scientific data to support our actions. Would you like to help with that? Yeah, this is also pretty obvious, but if someone feels needed and respected, that's always helpful. And I'm not sure how it is in Western Europe, but in this part of the world, in Poland and many other Eastern European countries, you're not very respected when you're a student by your professors. And I don't really think of the time I spent at the university as the best time of my life, definitely not. And this is actually something that we might take advantage of. If you tell a 21 or 22-year-old eager to start working as a vet, because this is important. Sometimes when you study something, you can start working in this area before you get your diploma, like IT, for example. But if you're studying veterinary medicine, you have to wait till your graduation to be working legally right now. So if you go to vet student who is 21 or 22 and ask them to be your campaign advisor, I bet they would just love and take it. This is also related. If you have someone who is great at IT, you use them for IT. If you have someone who's great at fundraising, you use them for fundraising. If you have a treasurer, such as veterinary students, use them for veterinary things. Give them a scientific report to write, give them an investigation material to consult, and so on and so on. Safe space, also extremely important and obvious, and we always try to make a safe environment for everyone. But what I would like you to have in mind is that as all the people who decide to help you, to be your volunteers, veterinary students will be empathetic and full of compassion. But what's worth having in mind is that these are the people who, how to say that, who have seen it with their own eyes, and they might be distressed, and they definitely are seeking for this very welcoming and understanding and loving community. So that's also something that might be useful if you present them with that community. Yeah, role models are crucial, of course. Again, a little bit personal. I got involved in the movement rather late, because it was 2 years ago. It was after I got my diploma, so I haven't been volunteering before that time. I just got a job at Albert Schweitzer's Polish office. And even though I was vegan, and I was definitely against all those, you know, the machine of industrial farming, I didn't really see myself as someone who can be involved in the movement, because the only thing I knew was, you know, typical street work and standing with a cardboard in front of some kind of a hotel or of a restaurant. Was I ignorant? 100%. I could have spent 30 minutes or an hour just researching animal welfare movement, effective altruism, and everything. But had I been presented with an event such as this one, I would have gotten involved much earlier. And this is the conference whose initiator was Maja Cygańska, who is Otwarte Klatki long-time volunteer. She's also a vet. I think she's even here today. And it was organized together with IFSA, International Veterinary Students Association. And it's a conference about ethical dilemmas in veterinary education. And yeah, the people you might encounter there are such badass women vets as Vicky Bond or Ines Ayuda, so people who are very well known in the movement. And I attended it last year, and I remember that I got a little bit emotional seeing all those young people being really engaged and asking questions. So, you know, showing to those people that you really can have a career and a successful career in the movement, but also just be a vet in the movement. That might also be extremely useful, in my opinion. Yeah, and that's all about things that might be useful for us. But I work for the movement, but I'm still a veterinarian, and there is always some kind of solidarity. So I would like to highlight two more issues that are emerging in the veterinary community. We all know that sometimes contacting veterinary inspection might be frustrating. They don't want to help. Sometimes they just stay in the way. But it's always important to be able to get the other person's perspective. So the junior inspector in veterinary inspection in Poland makes 570 euros a month before they take away the taxes. And if you're thinking to yourself, Jesus Christ, Poland is such a cheap country, I have to move there. Well, definitely not. The rent for a 30 square meter studio apartment in Warsaw is higher than the salary. And it doesn't mean that when you pay for this apartment with this salary, you wouldn't have enough money to support yourself. No, the rent is actually higher than the salary itself. And this is the situation that veterinary inspection faces in lots of countries, and they have been protesting that for a couple of years now. So that's also something that's worth having in mind. They are extremely overworked and underpaid. And something even more sad that is being covered by lots of media recently. This is Washington Post, Time, but also Vice. The suicidal rate among veterinarians is a few times higher than in the general public. This is the study done in US. So as you can see, the males 2 times higher, females 3.5 times higher than the general public. But there's also a study done in the UK, and as you can see, 4 times higher than general public. And of course, it's a very complex topic, but you can definitely highlight being underpaid, working crazy hours and just being overworked, but also compassion fatigue. And it comes also to people working with companion animals, because just imagine the fact that you can treat the animal, you know what the cure is or the treatment that should be used, but the caretaker decides to just put the animal down because, let's say, they don't have enough money to do that. It's extremely frustrating to do that. And if you were to take anything from the presentation, I would love you to remember these 5 simple things. First of all, always think about the plan, about what you exactly want from them and how you want to use them. Then reach out to them, preferably to veterinary students. There's better chance that you will get a student on board than a vet. Of course, appreciate them, profit from their hard work. They are always hardworking, and be considerate. Even if someone doesn't want to work with you and they are, let's say, on the other side, doesn't mean that they are the enemy. Be mindful and remember about those issues that I highlighted a second ago. Yeah, so that's actually all that I have prepared for you today. If you have any questions or doubts or ideas, please do not hesitate to contact me either by email or LinkedIn or Facebook. Thank you.
So thank you for a very interesting presentation, which I can relate to. And let's move on to questions. So the first one,
I'll just open it because it's probably easier for me to read it. Sorry.
Sorry, I didn't hear you properly.
I'll just open Slido so I can read the questions too and not only listen to them, you know, being not a native speaker and stuff. Yeah, go on, sorry.
Okay. So what changes need to be made to veterinary education to nurture compassion towards animals throughout the entire 5 to 6 years? And it's written by veterinary student.
Mm-hmm. Well, I will answer with a thought that came to me when I was watching the presentation given by Maja Cygańska again a year ago at this very conference, also about involving veterinarians. And I remember that she mentioned that we have a course called welfare science or welfare, whatever, somewhere in the beginning, I don't know, first or second year. And she was, she said that it was just a joke and that you didn't even have to attend it to pass it. And what was, I was shocked because I didn't even remember that we had something like that. And I didn't remember because it was a joke. That's the first thing. And second thing, it was right in the beginning. So you have to have in mind that, well, the vet student definitely knows that, but I'll tell that to the rest. Yeah, thanks, Maya. Those first 2 or 3 years of our studies are preclinical subjects such as anatomy, histology, biochemistry, physiology. So we spend lots of time with books, but we don't really have any exposure to animals, and definitely not to farm animals. So, you know, even if the course was given properly, first year is, well, in my opinion, just a little bit too soon. I think that we should make it better, but also later in the education.
Thank you for your answer. So let's move on to next question. What are some cultural norms in the animal movement that may be deterring vets?
Okay. Well, from my experience, this might be a little bit shocking, but I remember even being vegan and being like opposed to the whole machine of industrial farming. I remember thinking that Otwarte Klatki, the organization I work for now, they are like maybe too extreme, or like I couldn't relate to all of that, because yeah, they kept saying about cruelty and how horrific it is. But I was used to this science, so that's why I think that if you want to get vets or veterinary students, you should probably change your message and change your approach, and to approach them with some kind of a different message than just the general content that you would put on social media, which works great, but maybe it's not going to work for vets. I hope that answers that.
I hope so. So thank you. And the next question is, how can we create better cooperation between IVSA and Standing Committee on Animal Welfare and animal welfare organizations?
I would say that the simplest way to do that is just to get more vets involved in the movement, and more vets working in the movement, and more veterinary students or even vets volunteering in the movement. If people working in ISA contact other people who are also vets or veterinary students that are involved in the movement, we can always have this kind of agreement. I had this again agreement with it's another anecdote, but I remember attending a very much conference, corporate meeting about eggs, I think, or poultry. It doesn't really matter. And I talked to a man who was responsible for supply of meat for this particular retailer, and the discussion was totally unproductive. And I never tell that I'm a vet in the beginning of the meeting. I always leave that if the meeting is unproductive and they tend to say that we are incompetent, then I play the veterinary card. And I did that. And I remember that even though the guy was just completely on the other side, it turned out that we graduated from the same faculty of the same university. And then we started to have this kind of, well, at least a small bond that we could relate to. So yeah, more vets in the movement equals better understanding, better collaboration with IFSA or SCOP, in my opinion.
Thank you. And the last question is, in the veterinary curriculum, we are exposed to an endless number of welfare issues. How do you choose what to target?
I'm not sure if I understand that correctly, but if this is about what problem we should choose, like whether we should work with welfare problems in milking cows or pigs or poultry, if that's what this question is about, I'll just, again, statistics. We have, I don't know, around between 16 and 20 million pigs in Poland right now, and we slaughter more than 1 billion broilers each year. So that's why I believe it's crucial to work for broilers. We are actually the biggest poultry producer in the European Union. It's definitely super important for you, right?
So thank you very much. This